All right, our guest this afternoon is probably one of the most interesting people to talk to in Canadian music. Certainly, you could say he's probably the most interesting drummer that's out there. He's been with the band One Bad Son since 2004 when the band started. He is a lawyer who specializes in entertainment law. He's helped and represented musicians, labels, managers, other people in film and in music. He is currently serving his third term as president of SaskMusic. And in between doing all of that, he's also a husband and the father of three young kids at home in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Kurt Dahl is our guest. Hey, man, how you doing?
Thank you for that great intro, JC. Things are great, man. Obviously, all things considered, right? I mean, you make the most of what the crazy world we have right now. But honestly, I feel super grateful and super lucky to do what I do, and life is good here, man.
Well, let's start with just for those of you that may not be familiar with One Bad Son. I mean, these guys have been around for a while now. You guys have had multiple hits across Canada on Canadian radio. You had a number one with Raging Bull back in 2017. So, where was the band at prior to March of last year when everything shut down? Were you guys in the middle of a tour? Were you getting ready for a tour? What was going on with the band?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I feel like we were sort of in that like let's take a step back from like touring like crazy, and let's write some new music and like sort of take things. I wouldn't say in a new direction, but like let's not just keep doing the grind, right? Like I think a lot of bands get in that cycle of like you write quickly, record quickly, and go back on the road, And I feel like after at that point we had already been together for like 16 years. I felt like we were sort of let's not do the grind. We're done with the grind. Let's do things on our own term. We were also free agents now. Like we don't have a record label. We let go of our manager, so we're really free agents. So it was also the sense of like, holy, what the heck are we going to do next? But it was also really exciting to be fully, under our own control, sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
So I guess it was a big question mark. Where do we go next? And I always say, and like we always feel as a band, it's like let the songs dictate where we go next, right? So let's get together, write some songs, and see where it takes us. And then we started to do that, and then the pandemic hit, and Shane is in Calgary, Hicks and I are here in Saskatoon, so it's been really difficult. We haven't really written the songwriting process hasn't really continued in the pandemic, at least not together. Like we always write songs individually, but so it's been tough. Like, I mean, it's sort of slowed down wherever or put on pause wherever we were going to head next.
Mhm.
But that being said, the space apart has also really, I think, made us all just really appreciate, what we have as a band, right? I mean, I think that after we've done it we've been together for, I guess, 17 years now, which is crazy. And, you sort of look back at all the things we've done. It's like, I'm just really proud of what OBS is. We've always sort of done things our own way and created this thing that I think is truly its own sort of beast. And yeah, I think we're all feeling like appreciative of what we've done as a band and excited to like get back once this thing blows over a bit, get back and write some songs. And our fans, like, it's crazy to see people. I get messages every day from fans being like, talking about our songs and how much they've changed their lives. So to me, that's like, it's something we never have taken for granted. So yeah, I look forward to getting back to writing songs with my two brothers.
And I mean, there's got to be at least some silver lining of the fact that you guys haven't been able to be out and tour in the last year or so. I mean, I know you've got a lot to focus on outside of the band, between career and also family. I mean, I'm sure being home the last year has probably been a blessing in disguise. Really, I know Shane, lead singer of the band, he's an amazing comic book artist, and he's been working on that. I'm not sure what Hicks has been up to, probably covering Metallica or something in between, but it seems like you guys have all been keeping busy at least during the time. Was there any like discussion of, a lot of these bands are doing like live shows, live streaming shows. Have you guys talked about maybe doing that at all?
Yeah, and that's been like, I really wanted to do that because just playing music with Shane and Hicks is like one of my favorite things to do in the world, right? So it's been tough again because of the different locations. Like we can't really get together. You know, we'd have to rehearse, which I guess we could do on Zoom, but not with big loud drums, which is that's what I'm that's what I prefer. You know, so it's like you can't. If we're doing acoustic, I guess I could whatever, play brushes or grab an acoustic too, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think we miss that. And but like you said, it's like there's been a lot of silver linings to this whole downtime. And mostly I go back and I listen to some of our songs which we haven't played now in forever, and you sort of get to like you gain like a new appreciation of them, and yeah, so it's like a little bit of absence makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing, to the band in general, but also to the individual songs. Like I was driving the other day and like Scarecrows came on, and we haven't played when we were active as a band. Like I'd play that song every single concert, so I'd be playing it several times a week, almost every week of the year. And then I don't sit around and listen to our records that often, but it came on the radio, and it just took me back, right? It took me back to 2010 when we started to write that song. And
everybody says I want things that
I've already got. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's getting to that relationship with the songs you've written it's always changing, right? Like when Scarecrows, for example, blew up, and that was our first breakthrough song, like I had a different relationship with that song. And now almost 10 years later, it's sort of like how I view the song, how I hear the song, what the song means to me is totally different. And thankfully it's like it's even better, I think some artists, you write a song, especially if it's a massive song that blows you up, and maybe you don't like it that much as an artist, well then that you have like a negative relationship with certain songs. I've heard artists, right, like Radiohead didn't play Creep live for like years or something. Mm-hmm. I just think that's really silly, because it's like it's a great song, but also it's a song that made them get to the next level. But one thing I always think of, this is a great quote from Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, who, that was our first arena tour, and he was just such a gem of a human. We only talked like twice, but both times he was like super nice. And he said, like, we were talking about the hit. I'm like, how do you decide which hits to play? Because it's all hits for you guys, and do you ever not play certain hits, like big hits? Do you get sick of playing them? Like, do you get sick of playing Pour Some Sugar on Me? And he's like, no, never. He's like, if you don't have, what did he say? He's like, if you can't handle the responsibility of writing a hit record, then don't ever write one. Which I thought was just like, what a great thing to say. Like mm-hmm. When a song becomes a hit, it's no longer yours, right? It belongs to music fans, right? Listeners, right? They get to decide what it means to them. You can know what it means to you, but like that's, it's not your song anymore once a song gets released, really. So anyways, that's a long answer to your question.
I totally forgotten too. It just slipped my mind because I was thinking of all the times I've seen you guys perform live, and the different tours you've been on over the years. And I forgot opening for Def Leppard was one of them. I know that you guys did a run through Canada and mostly in the States with Sebastian Bach. You were part of the big Rolling Stones concert a few years back, not too far from here, actually, in Oro-Medonte.
Right, yeah.
I just want to ask you about that day. What was that day like to be part of such a huge event? I think it was the day before Canada Day, if I recall.
It was amazing, man. Like, I forget the number. I think they said like 70,000 people, but I'm not sure, but whatever it was like the biggest crowd I've ever seen. And, I've been a huge Stones fan all my life. Like, going back to when I was like, grade 9, first started buying vinyl records, in my room, for spending hours and hours by myself, just classic, like loner kid, and those hours and years in my room by myself, like made me who I am now as a musician, but also just as a human. I feel like that was my first education was that, before I went to university, but I have all those Stones records, all those records changed my life. Like some of those, I mean, Beggar's Banquet, Sticky Fingers. I mean, Exile on Main Street. Like those records are just in my DNA now. I've listened to them so many times, and so to be on the same bill as the Stones is like, it's just like I felt like a little kid again, you know. And then getting there and seeing the size of the crowd was insane. I wanted to meet Keith. Well, I would have taken Mick as well, but like I wanted to like shake Keith's hand because he's such a legend, you know. And so I tried my best. Like I did everything I could, and you know I can be fairly persuasive, you know. But I got like as far as like, you know, basically the Stones have like the security they have. It's like CIA level security, like guys in like suits and guns, and like, you know, they look like CIA level, sort of like crazy, right?
Mhm.
And I got to the head of security for backstage, and I was like, "Hey, man, like we're one of the opening acts. The Stones." I gave him the whole spiel, like I just gave you. The Stones changed my life, you know. And I was like, "Can I just like, you know, I'm not. I just want to shake Keith's hand. Like, can I just say hi and shake his hand, you know?" And he's like, he kind of like he tolerated me, he humored me, he listened to my whole spiel, and then he said, he gave me a look and did not smile at all, and he just said, I said, "Can I please meet Keith?" And he said, "Keith Richards has met everyone that he needs to meet in this lifetime."
Totally blown off.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I just laughed. I was like, what can
Yeah.
you say, right? You know, like,
Uh,
uh,
that's funny.
so anyway, I never met Keith, never met Mick. I don't know if even like, I don't think the Glorious Sons met them either, and they were right before the Stones. Like, you know, it was just when you're at that level, like everyone in the world wants to meet Keith and Mick, right? So at some point, you can't do it. So that's yeah, it would have been cool if they walked backstage with us, but no, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, but still, I mean, a pretty awesome memory to have in the old log, just in case you ever look back on the days of the band and go, oh yeah, the Stones. Didn't get to meet them, but what a day.
No, oh, it's like that'll be on like, yeah, that'll be, if I think people, when I look back, yeah, it'll be some of the big things OBS has done. Like that's top two for sure, you know. So
Hmm. And I mean, you've been also having a lot of tremendous success too in the day job, which is an entertainment lawyer. I think I read recently that you represented one big artist. I know this is an artist that we play a lot on our sister station, but Dance Monkey from, is it Tones?
Tones and I, yeah.
Tones and I. Yes, that was a big song that we played on the radio. We heard it everywhere around the world, and you were part of the legal representation for that song.
It was kind of crazy, yeah. Like so, Tones and I, like so, Dance Monkey was, yeah, the #2 song in the world last year, which blows my mind. Like #1 was The Weeknd, you know. #2 was Dance Monkey, and she's not from Canada, she's from Australia, and so it's like, well, how was I involved? It was kind of a crazy story. Like her manager was a self-described failed entertainment lawyer, and when he was an entertainment lawyer, like he read all my articles that I post on my website, you know. So you know, lawyerdrummer.com, is I've been writing articles there for a decade on things that no one else was writing about, or at least they weren't back when I started, and they've started to in recent years, but trying to help out musicians, right? Like giving answers to legal questions in the music biz that I never knew growing up. Like they confuse the hell out of me, right? So, you know, like how do you split songwriting between you and your bandmates? How much producer points should you give your producer? You know, is your producer a co-writer of the songs if they suggest, hey, you should change the key on the chorus or whatever, right? These kind of things that I just find I find super interesting. I'm kind of a nerd for this kind of music law stuff, right? Like to me, it's no one ever taught me this stuff. You couldn't find the answers online, so I started doing that. And long story short, her manager loved all the articles. He reached out to me before she blew up. She was starting to blow up. It started to go viral, but she hadn't. She was at like a few thousand views, like nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's at like 1 billion or something, like crazy. And he's like, I got this artist blowing up. He's like, can you help me if we get a record deal? I was like, sure. And so we had a phone call and stuff, had a second call. He didn't even tell me the artist's name. And then by the third phone call, you know, I was like, who is this artist? Because now we had all the major labels. It was a full-on bidding war. And it was crazy. And she went from, you know, sorry. So he told me her name. I Googled it, and it's like, I saw these numbers just going through the roof. And, you know, a month before that, she was busking on the street literally like busking for food because she was, not busking for fun, busking because she didn't have any food, no money, right?
Mhm.
And by the time we did the deal, so we negotiated with all the different majors. I had another U.S. lawyer helping me, and she went from busking for food to never having to worry about money again in a matter of like a month.
I'm
And
kidding.
it was just like, it was so cool to see. And also I think she's like a legit talent, she's the real deal, right? Like, so yeah, it was kind of like, what are the chances, right? And now, yeah, like they sent me, you can see in the background, it's like a quadruple platinum record, which like these days, if you get a gold record, it's pretty cool. She got quadruple platinum. Like, it's hard to even fathom, right? It was one of those like almost like it is a rags to riches story, and it was cool to be along for the ride.
And have you found that by helping her, that's now resulting in more potential business coming your way? Like, are you finding like more artists are like, I want the lawyer drummer guy. He got the great deal for Tones and I. Let's get him on it. Are you finding that starting to happen?
Yeah. So, what I find, I mean, I think everything I do, like these things happen when these big successes come, it helps, right? Like, but yeah, I think those kind of moments, yeah, like word of mouth spreads, right? And I've been lucky over the years, like, I'm not based in, one of the two big centers, Toronto, Vancouver, or let alone LA and New York, so, I feel like I have to work probably harder than entertainment lawyers that are in those big centers in terms of like getting the word out. And like people can't just walk into my office like you could if you're like in LA or New York, right? Like they can if you're in Saskatoon, but Saskatoon's not a major hub for entertainment, right? So for me, a lot of it is social media, right? And then writing these articles that get read, thousands of times a day. Like it's that sort of credibility too that and then probably 90% of my clients come from word of mouth, right? I mean, I work my ass off for my clients. I love what I do. I'm passionate about entertainment law. I'm not sure if all my competition can say the same, right? And they definitely can't say that they spent 16 years in a tour van, So there is that sort of, I understand, I am an artist, so I understand my fellow artists, right? And I think that's creates a lot of trust.
Hmm. And obviously, I mean, being that you've been there, you've known what life is like on the road. You've known trying to figure out how you're going to afford to eat. Obviously, that sets you up a lot better to represent artists. With your work with SaskMusic now, are you taking a lot of those skill sets as an entertainment lawyer and applying that to what you do as the president of SaskMusic and making sure that Saskatchewan has a healthy music industry and that the artists are taken care of?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so with SaskMusic, and it's actually my term is coming to an end in like a month, which it's really sad. Well, it'll be sad to say goodbye. Like you can go for a max of 6 years, and then you
Mhm.
have to step down, kind of like whatever, the president or something. You can only do a certain amount, and you're out. But it's been an honor to go the full 6 years. Like it's been what a crazy ride, and in those 6 years, I mean, the amount of musicians from this province that have blown up on the global scale has been crazy, right? Like, it's been so. We'll talk about that later. In terms of just, it's a small population, 1 million people in Sask, and per capita, like the number of international success stories here is just crazy for music artists. But yeah, I mean, so in that role, I'm more of like an advocate or like I act as a voice for the music industry and musicians in this province. So if it's like trying to get more funding from the government or guiding so the staff are the ones that actually create the programming and all that sort of stuff, and they do amazing work. The board and the president sort of like provide guidance in terms of big picture, where should the organization be heading and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been really cool. I mean, and I've been able to just I think in some way spread the word across the country. Like people in, like I said, the big centers, they often see what I'm up to, and it's like, I'm championing Saskatchewan artists, and it's pretty cool because, again, a decade ago, I would say Sask only had a handful of big artists that people knew, right?
Mhm.
And like the Wide Mouth Masons or the Northern Pikes, like those are the two big ones, right? And then and you get in the last decade like Sheepdogs, The Dead South. Tennille Arts just had a #1 song in America. She's the first Canadian #1 since 2007 or something.
Yeah, first in Shania too, I think, for female. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and the first song ever to go #1 in country that is all female, like singer, producer, songwriter, and all the performers. Like, it's a crazy. And yeah, I mean, there's so many artists in this province. Coulter Wall is a good friend and client, and he's become in the last, like, say 5 years, just like in some circles, like a household name, and yeah, it's been really cool to see. So I'm always like, I'm a proud Saskatchewan boy, like, even like I lived in Vancouver for 4 years with my wife and with the band, and I love Vancouver. So many great things there that we don't have here, but it never felt like home. Like, home is here, and there's just so many things that make it special here.
What do you think, when whatever normal is, when we get back to normal for musicians, where you're out on the road again and you're touring, what do you think the biggest challenges are going to be that are going to face them when they get back out there, kind of from an entertainment lawyer perspective? Like, what's the one thing that needs to be worked on? Is it, I think obviously artist compensation from Spotify is probably a big one these days, but in your view, what's really something that needs to be worked on as soon as we're able to get back to normal?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think, you hit on a bit, like what you get paid from Spotify and streaming services and even YouTube. I think that needs to be remedied. And I think there is actually some interesting technologies coming out using like blockchain, et cetera, to have it be a more transparent accounting from like Spotify, et cetera, and more immediate too. Like, you get streamed whatever, this many times in a day, you get paid the next day for it. Like, it's, but then, it's when one thing that is happening, I'm noticing now, as everyone's gearing up for touring again, fingers crossed, it's like the schedules are going to be so crazy full, and it's going to be like, for live music fans, which we both are, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be like every night of the week there's going to be live music out there. But then that creates another hurdle, which is like, well, how do you, like, most music fans have a budget in terms of like what they're going to spend in a week, and I hope you're going to be able to go see a great band like 7 days a week for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be almost like this overwhelming, like, holy shit, like, I got to decide if I'm going to go see this band, or this band tonight. And scheduling will be weird because a lot of the tours that were booked for 2020 are now into 2021 or 2022. What about new tours, new albums coming out? And it's going to be like, I think musicians and their teams are going to be like fighting for scheduling spots, and I think that'll be like a short period of time though. Like, that'll be a weird sort of phase. I think it'll be good for music fans if you can budget your live music spending, and then eventually it'll go back to normal. Is my guess. Like, 3 years from now, I hope it's like we're sort of back at the, or maybe it's even less. Maybe 2 years from now, it's like back just to the way it was before. Maybe with some changes. I mean, who knows? I won't get into this too much, but there's talk of a lot of big companies in the music biz are saying we're gonna have to have a vaccine passport essentially to be able to go see shows, which I think is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to get into that. Like, that's sort of like whatever.
It's a whole can of worms for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And everyone's got different beliefs. I don't really care about, quite honest, but like, I think the idea, like, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to a business decision for a lot of these companies, right? Live Nation or different promoters, whatever. They're going to say, I don't want to get sued if someone gets sick at my concert, and I want to have as much people as I can to make money. So therefore, you got to have the passport, or too bad, And so in a weird way, it'll be sorted out through supply and demand and economics, I think, whether people like it or not,
I've got like a million more questions, and I know we're running short on time, Kurt. So we're definitely gonna have to have you on again. But I guess one last question from the entertainment lawyer perspective. Things have obviously changed in how you get discovered these days. A lot of artists now are getting discovered on TikTok and on social media by uploading their clips. Do you have any advice for one of those artists that puts something up there? Maybe it goes viral. Maybe somebody calls one day and says, we'd like to make some money off of this. What's the first thing that they should keep in mind before they sign anything?
Well, I mean, before you sign anything, get a legal advice, and that's not, that's not me trying to get work. It's like I've got enough work as it is. But honestly, I've just seen so many times where artists call me after they've signed something, and then they say, "Can you help?" Because things didn't go as they expected. And I was like, "You've already signed the contract. Like, now's not the time to call me. Call me before you sign the contract." And trust me, like, I've seen it. People's careers can be made or broken by the right or wrong contract, right? Like, I've seen some artists have so much potential and so much talent, and they sign a bad deal, and then it's like, to get out of that deal, it just next to impossible. So they get stuck with this sketchy person in the music biz that's probably, there's great people in the music biz, some of the most amazing, intelligent, thoughtful, generous, kind people. And it's also like the opposite. And it's probably 50-50 if I were to be honest. I'm lucky I get to work with the good 50%, but I often see the other 50% on the other side of deals. Mm-hmm. And once that kind of person has you signed to a contract, they're not going to let you out easily. And that's just the reality of sketchy people, So as far as TikTok, yeah, I mean, some of the biggest success stories I've seen in the last year have been via TikTok, and first off, it's not for everyone. Like, I'm not on it. My website, people say I should be because it's such good marketing, whatever. I wouldn't have time to like play with my kids if I had to, spend all this time on TikTok. But I know that if I was a young artist, I'd be on it because it's where major labels are looking to sign the next act, which is crazy. But I would say, is it flaky, or is it like, sort of, can it be just, sort of fake or disposable? Well, yes, but it can also be real. Like, I think if you're authentic, you can't go wrong, right? So if you're trying to pretend to be someone or trying to do some silly dance that's not really you, well, good luck. But if you're authentic, like one of my clients from your neck of the woods, Robin Ottolini, like, she just blew up on TikTok from just people, girls kept covering her song called F-150. It's about like breaking up with a guy, and every time you see an F-150 truck, you think you're taken back to that person. And so girls kept and guys kept doing cover versions of it, and she blew up. And she's like the most authentic person out there, right? And so she used TikTok, blew up, and didn't have to pretend to be someone else. And now we got a major label deal in the U.S., and she's killing it. It's like the #1 Canadian song right now at country radio. So. Long story short, be authentic. If you're going to try to break on TikTok, just be yourself. And when you're being yourself, the best thing is you don't have to worry about messing up because you're not pretending to be someone else, Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my spiel.
All right. Be yourself, and definitely talk to a lawyer before you sign the first contract. Right. This has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't want to take up a lot of your time because I know you're a busy dude, and we're leaving a lot of questions on the table, but this was a tremendous first guest to have on our brand new radio station on the Bruce. I'm so glad that you were able to make the time this afternoon. The full video of the interview will be available on our website, on social media. All the links to Kurt's website, lawyerdrummer.com, onebadson.com, the band, the Spotify links to hear all the music from the band. I'll put them all up so that you can go and check this band out yourself if you've never heard them. Of course, we're going to play Hurricane coming up in just a few moments. Great song from One Bad Son on, I think it was the last album you guys came out. Hurricane was on that last album. Yeah, that's a fantastic album. Well worth listening to. We'll get all of the information up. But once again, Kurt Dahl, drummer, lawyer, family man, president of SaskMusic, at least for another month. Thank you so much for taking the time today, man.
Hey, thanks so much, JC. Appreciate it, man.
Respect the rock. 97.9 The Bruce.